Hi, welcome to Get Lit. My name is Pete Crooks. I'm senior editor and senior writer at Diablo magazine in Walnut Creek. And on Get Lit, we talk to local authors about their writing process, about their books, and about how they use public libraries in their work. Today we have a Walnut Creek author named Lucia Barbini Falcone, and she's the author of Over Bridges Across Tables, a book about her life growing up on the island of Murano in Italy. And welcome, Lucia.
Thank you.
So you're a Walnut Creek resident.
Yes.
How long have you lived in Walnut Creek?
I have lived in Walnut Creek for 35 years.
35 years?
Yes.
So you came to Walnut Creek in the early 1970s.
Yes.
And talk a little bit about what were your first impressions of the city of Walnut Creek when you arrived here?
When I arrived, we lived in Auckland for 5 years.
Okay.
And then my husband, who was born in Auckland, always loved Walnut Creek. And so we decided after 5 years that we were going to move to Walnut Creek, and I loved it. I loved Auckland, I loved Walnut Creek, I loved the United States.
Wow. So your husband was born in Oakland, but you met in Italy.
Yes, I was working in a shop in San Marco Square and in Venice, and he came and buy a gift, and that's how we met.
So your book, Over Bridges Across Tables, talks a lot about childhood and these memories, very rich cultural experiences growing up in Murano. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and where you're from.
Murano is a small island, as you know, in the Venetian lagoon. And the book is not only about my family, it is about a culture, the Venetian culture in the 60s, which was a fascinating time in that the island still preserved its own cultural value and distinct identity. People remain in the island and they didn't need to go outside to seek entertainment and all of that. And what I mean is there were, like, for instance, a lot of little mama and papa store, and they stay open until 7:38. And as you went about buying grocery and last-minute grocery for your meal, people interacted with one another. On summer evening, everyone was outside talking, walking up and down the street, sitting on the bridge, steps, and you stop at the cafe, you have an aranciata, an ice cream, and it was a lot of fun for everyone. And then modernity came into play, like TV, air conditioning, ice cream that you could buy in the store and enjoy in the comfort of your home. And worst of all, a big grocery store, a chain store came, and it was a novelty, so everybody went to buy their grocery there because it was special, this and that. And so all the little mama and papa stores that had been there for centuries, disappear. And in their place, they put like a glass store, which is wonderful for tourism, but it just took that charm of the dynamic of the island change at that time.
So it's very nice how your book evokes the feeling of what the island was like before the chain grocery store came in. And it's such an interesting concept of modernity, making life easier or more convenient in some ways, but stripping some of the charm. As you're describing that, I just had this memory of I was in Fiji probably 15 years ago, and the main town of Nandi that I was staying in, I opened up the newspaper, and the story on the front page of the newspaper was that Nandi was getting its first McDonald's restaurant that weekend. And, I grew up in suburban California. I've seen more than enough McDonald's restaurants, so I didn't see this as great news. But I happened to walk by the grand opening. I came around this corner, and there's this beautiful afternoon sunlight shining on a hill, and there was McDonald's on top of the hill, and there were people coming from all directions going to see the new McDonald's. And I thought, boy, their life's going to change, and their health's going to change a little bit too. So there is something nostalgic about remembering when all the cafes were locally owned and all the grocers, you knew them. So were you a writer as a young person? And when did you start to record your thoughts about what life was like as a child in Murano?
Well, I wish I could tell you that I was a writer in grade school, but actually, when my kids went to college, I enrolled at DVC. And because I wanted to write no a book, I wanted to learn how to write a sentence in English.
Oh.
And and you know, while I was there, so many wonderful English teachers each taught me something about the craft of writing, and that's how I came to love writing. And as well at Berkeley, when I attended Berkeley, then I took a lot of writing classes, and I found that the writing process is so fascinating.
So before you came to the States, living in Italy, there's some wonderful passages about going to the movies in your book and seeing Elvis Presley on screen as a child. Can you talk a little bit about what were your impressions of the United States from the town that you grew up in? What impression did you have of the American experience?
Yes, you know, I have a lot of fond memory about Murano, but I think this country is so wonderful. I think I love the United States at the moment that I step off the airplane. People were so welcoming. They just welcomed me with open arms. American welcomed me with open arms. And I had such a wonderful experience. My husband's family were warm and loving, and then every person that I've met has been great.
So your husband is an American, but you met in Italy,
yes.
and were married in Italy?
And his family is from Italy.
Okay.
Actually, my children are third generation pure blood Italian.
Okay.
Because he was pure blood Italian. His father and mother both were from Italy.
So how did you meet?
Well, I was in a glass store in San Marco Square, and he came and buy something. And we started talking. Actually, I didn't speak English, but I knew one sentence. I knew, how long are you going to stay in Venice? And he talked for half an hour, and I smiled, and he thought I knew English. And then he left and came back a little bit later, and he asked me to go out with him, and that's how we met.
And were you fascinated to hear stories of what America was like?
Well, I don't know that we really communicated a lot. He spoke English, I spoke Italian.
Interesting. What did you do on your first date?
We went out to eat.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's always great food, and there's lots of
Yes.
description of food in your book, and the way meals and food preparation bring generations together.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I think that food, eating is the thing that I love to do most in life. And the reason why is because I associate food with people. There were 9 people in our family, and we just had 2 meals a day together throughout my life, my adulthood, and we celebrated. Sometimes we didn't have money, but my father always brought home a little something for us children and made us feel like we were celebrating. And each meal that I can remember was a celebration. We talked and we argued and we fought. In fact, the first time that my husband came to Italy and came and eat over our house, we started arguing and talking about religion and politics, and Robert just sat in a little corner. He was so shocked. And then all of a sudden everybody went home and we all hugged each other, and he said, oh my gosh, this is how you guys talk. Yeah, that's how we talk.
Well, that's funny. What do you remember about the East Bay in 1960? I was born in 1969. I have very sort of sunny, fond memories of the East Bay in the early 1970s. What was it like for you to find this new home?
Well, it was lovely. I didn't know how to drive, of course, so I was a little confined at the beginning, but I learned soon enough, because when you have children, I had children right away too, so when you have children, you have to move around, so I did that, and I loved it because we live in the Rock Ridge area, and it is a vibrant community there too, and it was also at that time, so And as I said, the people were so friendly and so welcoming and so encouraging that I really, I missed my family, but I was happy to be here.
Rockridge has that wonderful restaurant, Oliveto.
Yes.
What restaurants in the East Bay most reminded you of home? And did you have that sense of the food community here that you remembered from childhood in Italy?
Yes, I did, because I made it that way. You know, I made my house a welcoming place for friends, and I think I have a lot of friends over the year, because I didn't have my own family. I had an extended family, and I wanted my children to have that kind of experience. And so we have a lot of celebration as well.
Coming to the United States, you were learning to speak English and then to write English. And within, a few decades, you're publishing a book in English about your experiences growing up in Italy. Can you talk about how you got into the University of California at Berkeley and were eventually given a very prestigious award, the Eisner Award for Prose, for your beautiful writing?
I'm a person that loves noise, confusion, and unpredictability. And I think what I like about writing is that unpredictable process. Like you think of an idea, and then you ponder the idea, and then you start writing. And oftentimes what comes out at the end is something different than what you had planned. And I think it is that unpredictable process, the writing that comes from within, that no one can see, not even yourself, until it is transferred into your paper. I know you are a writer. I don't know if you had that experience. Sometimes you read your own words and you think, oh, how did that come out? Do you ever have that?
I do. Writing for a magazine is a little bit different than writing a long form piece. But the beauty of Diablo magazine is that we have very short stories in the front of the magazine. We have sort of medium-sized stories. In the middle are department stories, and then we have feature-length stories. And in my 11 plus years at Diablo, I've been able to write for every section. So my favorite part of writing is that time once you started. I've got a long course of procrastinations that I go through, checking email and having meetings and doing things. But when you really get into writing and you just get lost in the computer, in the Word document, and in your mind you're visualizing exactly where this is going, that's my favorite part of the experience. The fine-tuning at the end of the story is very satisfying, because you get to kind of go back to that really pure place where you're really opening up and telling a story. I love that experience, and I will sometimes come here to the Walnut Creek Public Library or to other public libraries, because this environment I find it very sort of it's very nurturing, and there's being surrounded by all these books and all these thoughts and resources is a really good place to kind of inspire that. And I love to read other writers as well, because whether it's your book or any of the guests on Get Lit, I'm always impressed by that creative process that begins with an outline or an idea and then turns into a manuscript, and then turns into a published manuscript, and then turns into a book. I just think it's such a wonderful creative process. So your kids grew up, and you decided to go back for an advanced degree at UC Berkeley. Can you talk about what the writing programs that you entered there taught you, and how they inspired you to sort of evolve your craft?
I love the writing program there, because they give you an assignment, and then there are 20 students that are going to critique your assignment. And it's very interesting, because each student, each writer has a different opinion about your writing. And so one says, oh, after they read your story, oh, I love your first voice, you know, I like your I voice. And others say, oh, that I voice is so weak. And so you get a different opinion of people, and you take a little bit of everything and just make it into your own. And you use the critique to better your writing. And I think that's so exciting for me. And also when I sit in front of the computer, I get my whole inside turned upside down. It's an exciting process, and I love it. And writing is not just about, writing. It's about learning. It's about teaching. It's about the feeling of the writer and the feeling of the reader. And at one point, the two has to converge for the writing to work. And so this is why all this opinion that people give you, the critique, constructive criticism, are important.
Are you sensitive?
No.
So if people can be vicious and
brutal,
yes. and you take that in a constructive way.
Yes.
I'm way too sensitive.
Oh, no way.
There's something wrong with that person, not with my writing. But no, that's good. So you're able to take something positive from even the most brutal criticism.
Yes, I'm not sensitive at all. I think, in general, about life, I'm not sensitive. I just take what comes and then go with it. I'm not a sensitive person in that respect.
Can you talk about what time of day do you like to write? And what is your writing environment like? What's your desk in your home office like?
Well, like I said, I love chaos. And so, but when I write, I love the early morning hour, the peacefulness of the house. I really treasure that. And so I usually get up real early in the morning and then I start writing.
So your book was published in 2001, the first
Yes.
edition. What satisfaction did it give you as an accomplishment to see the book, in a bound copy, that this is no longer just an idea or a file on your computer, but this really exists and people can read it?
Yes. I think, there is a lot to be said for seeing your writing in print. And I self-published the book because you know how hard it is to find a publisher. And I did try for a year and a half to try to have someone to read the manuscript. And but there is a lot to be said for self-published books as well, because I have had the opportunity to meet so many new people, to give lecture and to encounter people that share their ideas as well, and the perks are really nice.
So we spoke earlier about the communication you had with other writers in the writing class. What response did you get from readers, from people who would come to your cooking class demonstration or to an author appearance? And specifically, did you have people who grew up in Italy who had a similar experience growing up in Italy and coming to the States, and how did they relate to your book?
Yes. I think the best part is when someone that you've never met before, they live in a different, state, call you up and said, I got your phone number from such and such, and I love your book, and I had 6 brothers and sisters as well, and blah, blah, blah. And so I think, or they send you a letter. Those are the things that really keeps you going. This book is also about dreams and memories, in which my father always thought that it was the essence of a happy life. And he would say, you plant your memory, those are your flower and your star. The star are your dream that keeps you going. And I think when you publish a book and you find the people that really come up to you and said, I enjoy your book so much, and it reminds me of my childhood as well. And I think those are your flower. Those are your memory that you're building for yourself.
There's a great satisfaction.
Yes, and also, do you know what the best part was? When the Muranese, people from Murano read it. And so they stop me on the street and they say, who was that person? Because of course I changed names out of respect of people, because when you live in a small island, you need to do that.
Blur those lines
and,
a little.
Yes, and so it was really cute. But people my age, you know, could tell who I was. But
now, how often do you go back to visit?
I go every year.
Oh, so you get to go back every year and,
yes.
and reconnect.
And actually, do you know what was nice? So when I published the book, I was a little nervous to go to Murano, and I brought the book, and one night my family, my 5 siblings and I, and my 20 nieces and nephews, we all sat around my mother's kitchen table, and I started reading the story. And the book became a springboard for discussion, you know, and my 5 siblings and I found out that we have 6 different versions of the same story. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Now, we're here in the Walnut Creek Public Library, the new Walnut Creek Library, and you said you live across the street from the Ignacio, the Oak Road branch. But growing up in Murano, you didn't have a public library in your town.
No.
Can you remember the first time that you went to a library and saw all the resources that a library provides?
Certainly. Murano, we didn't have a public library until I was 12, 13. A new doctor came to the island, and his wife made sure we had a library, which is still in function today. And it was a nice library, but generally speaking, libraries in Italy are very intimidating places. You know, you go in, no one talks, and you write down the book, and you give the little piece of paper to the librarian, and I don't know why they have this rule, but I think maybe because they have a lot of ancient manuscript, you cannot touch anything. And so when I came to the United States, a whole new worlds opened up for me. I could walk down the aisle, I could touch all the books that I want, I could bring them home, I could, you know, bring my children to story time. It's been wonderful. And also you can talk to the librarian, which is always interested in helping you. And like the other day, I went to the library with my 3 grandchildren. They are 8, 7, and 5. And I sat on the side and I let them go up to the resource librarian. And it was so wonderful to see this interaction between the librarian and the children. She was very interested in what the kids had to say. And I thought, you know, we are so fortunate to have this kind of learning experience, and I think libraries are wonderful.
The resources that we have to use for free,
yes.
To be able to check books out and take them home, whether they're cooking books or fiction or nonfiction,
yes.
and for your grandchildren, yourself, it really is special. How often have you come to this new Walnut Creek Library since it opened?
Oh, I came 2 times. And I brought my grandchildren as well, and they went home and couldn't stop talking about it. It is a wonderful achievement of someone, obviously, that had a dream, maybe more than one person. And I want to commend whoever made this happen. That is just a fantastic job.
Now, Over Bridges Across Tables is in print now. You're also working on another book as well as a
yes.
film screenplay?
Yes. Well, I wrote the screenplay first, and then after I was done, it was a lot of fun. It was an incident that happened to my husband and my brother a long time ago, and I started writing about it. It was a funny incident. And I started writing about, and of course, it takes more than an incident to fill up a screenplay, 120 pages. So I made it to be an adoption. 2 men from 2 different countries, completely different, they find a common thread in fatherhood. And but after I was done, it is not so much a creative process. You know, the feeling of the character has to be interpreted by the actors, not by the writer. And so I decided I wanted to be the omniscient writer. I wanted to write about the characters. So I wrote the novel, and now I'm revising it.
So you're still working on it,
Yes.
but you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're almost
Yes,
done with the
yes.
story. Well, very much looking forward to that next project.
Thank you.
And Lucia, congratulations on Over Bridges. Very interesting and very heartfelt story, and it has that magic of being able to take the reader to your experience of growing up in a different time, in a different place, in a very rich culture. So Lucia Barbini Falcone, thank you so much for being our guest on Get Lit.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching Get Lit. You can read all about authors in the East Bay at diablomag.com, and you can watch for interviews with other authors here on Get Lit, so make sure to tune in to the next episode. Thanks for watching.